I'm Rajnish Ahuja, Head of Transport and Urban Development Team at AFD India. Before I start the presentation, I would extend a vote of thanks to Rail Analysis for invitation to this conference. My presentation is semi-technical, but more on the funding opportunity side. And before I start the presentation, I would like to explain what AFD is. AFD stands for Agence Française de Développement, which in English translates to French Development Agency, which is a public finance institution on similar lines to World Bank. And in India, we have been working with Department of Economic Affairs since 2008 through the route of sovereign loans for metro projects. So I'll start with an overview of what AFD is doing in India and in what sectors. We are into energy sectors, digital and technological, urban transport sectors. That's an overview of the South Asian region where we are involved. In India, till date, 2.2 billion euros have been invested across different sectors, out of which 1.2 billion euros is for urban transport sector. So these are the four regional priorities that we have as of now for our plan from 2022 to 2026. The first one being fighting climate change by supporting low carbon transitions, which includes our credit lines to EESL, then providing financing to Bangalore Metro, Kochi, Nagpur, Pune, Surat, and upcoming in Ahmedabad phase 2. Then again, we are into climate financing, which contributes to a more inclusive economic growth. So we were in the region, we are actually financing in Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, but for the Afghanistan office has recently been closed. I mentioned about this earlier. We are focused on India's energy transition, and recently we have moved on to just energy transition phase, and we are in talks with Energy Efficiency Services Limited as well as DA on the same. So now moving on to the core sector which I am involved into. In fact, AFD is a more neutral agency. We can finance any of these modes, but however, in India, till date, we have majorly financed metro projects, and that totally depends upon the request that is shared with us by Department of Economic Affairs. And as I mentioned earlier, most of these loans / financings have been project loan, meaning a sovereign loan to Government of India. However, we are also looking forward to provide loans into projects that would be related to Metro Neo or Metro Light. So these are 5 guiding principles which you might know. These are quite well known. I'll quickly move forward. In terms of mass rapid transit projects, that's the track record that we have across the globe. We have financed LRTs in France, in African countries, as well as in some of the Latin American countries. And why we are involved in more of metro projects? First, because it is the request from Department of Economic Affairs. Secondly, before we present any project to our board, we have to do some calculations where we need to present to our board that the carbon footprint of any of the projects that we will be financing in urban transport sector is positive. And upon doing calculations, we have found out for the 6 different metros that we have financed till date that the carbon footprint is positive owing to these factors: reduction in CO2 emissions, avoided emissions, because of the grid factor, and the elasticity assumptions impact due to induced traffic estimates. Coming on to the projects that we are involved in India. So in Bangalore, we have financed Bangalore phase 1 and phase 2 to an extent of 310 million euros. It has been fully commissioned, meaning we are fully disbursed on Bangalore Metro side. Same with Kochi, for 180 million euro, phase 1 we are fully disbursed. However, the new thing about Kochi is we are financing a 27 million euro project which is totally on soft mobility measures, meaning construction of footover bridges, ensuring first and last mile connectivity, financing of e-vehicles. And this is right now ongoing, and we are looking forward to such projects in future, but only upon the request received from DEA. Coming on to the ongoing projects, right now in Maharashtra we have two. One is on Nagpur, 130 million euros, which will be fully disbursed by end of this year. Then we have Pune, which would be disbursed by end of March 2023. Coming on to Surat Metro, we just signed in January 2021. The project is right now ongoing, and it's a bit slow in terms of implementation on ground. However, following the Surat Metro intervention in Gujarat, we also are looking forward to possibly finance Ahmedabad Phase 2, which will be connecting Ahmedabad as well as Gandhinagar. As I mentioned, we have financed 6 metro projects in India. However, there are a number of challenges which we have found out while implementing these projects. These are related to first implementation of transit-oriented development measures. Because as you know, the TOD policy of India says 500 meter on either side of the tracks. You need to develop that. However, as soon as you move away from the entry exits of metro stations, the land, it actually belongs to municipal corporations and other local bodies. And for them to sit together and work on one single goal sometimes is a problem. And that's why we move on to the second problem, which is the need of an UMTA, meaning Unified Metropolitan Transport Authority. For all these 6 metro projects, we have seen that there are draft bills for UMTA, but none of the UMTAs are as yet operational. Moving on to the third challenge that we find in most of the metro projects is multimodal integration. However, this is now picking up. If we take the example of Pune, Surat, as well as Ahmedabad, in fact, these metro agencies, meaning Mahametro and GMRC, have been proactive in designing tenders to an extent of 8 to 10 million euros, actually focusing only on multimodal integration. Then the challenges that we have further are standardization, indigenization, and inducing competition, where we find Make in India policy which is being interpreted differently by different metro agencies. I mentioned about the soft mobility measures, and lastly, it's about the national implementation of National Common Mobility Card guidelines across different metros. For example, in Bangalore, the card that was introduced was a closed loop card. However, now as they are moving towards open loop, it's a bit difficult right now, but it will take time. But it is still a challenge. I'll go on quickly on how our metro projects have ensured the finance plus element, which DEA, Department of Economic Affairs, actually asks for. And we also look for that before presenting these projects to our board. So going on to mitigation measures, we have examples from Mahametro where they have installed solar panels on RESCO model. These pictures are from Nagpur. Then cost savings in O&M through regenerative braking and air conditioning in rolling stock with variable voltage, variable frequency drive. These are some of the adaptation measures which we have recently adopted for Surat Metro Rail project. I'll quickly move on and come to this slide where we have actually worked with Gujarat Metro Rail Corporation on how they can adapt to the floods that usually happen in the city and how they need to take care of it while implementing the project. These are some examples from Kochi Metro on how they increase the ridership. This again can help metro projects in terms of increasing fare box revenues and might be replicated in different cities. Improving accessibility through RMT, connectivity to shopping malls, which even Nagpur has done and Pune is looking forward to do so. headway augmentation as soon as your ridership increases, because we always do commissioning in parts for these metro projects. Introduction of trip passes, integrating ticketing, free cycles, and in terms of non-fare box revenues, these are some examples from Kochi, where they have increased their non-fare box revenue to an extent of 40% of the total revenues by semi-naming of metro stations, property development at commercial land, unit cell telecom towers on metro pillars, leasing open spaces, and that is what we have to offer. However, we have not been able to find out any possible financing on PPPs. In fact, there were few discussions in 2016 and 2017, and if you need more information, you can just Google through this publication of ours, and it will make things even clearer. One more thing, we have a private financing arm called Proparco, which finances private agencies, whereas AFD is totally on the public finance side, meaning working with the Government of India through these different instruments. So how we do this financing in sovereign route is we get a request from Department of Economic Affairs, we review the proposal, present it to our board, then we have some missions that we undertake, we review the feasibility studies that are shared with us, and have a number of questions to metro companies, Department of Economic Affairs, as well as Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. As soon as 80% of these questions are answered, we can easily get a go-ahead from our board towards the financing of these loans. So this is one example of PPP that was undertaken in France and in Morocco. Quickly moving on, as I mentioned, we are now trying to integrate soft mobility projects in our metro projects, as well as through Smart Cities mission. We are focusing on projects that actually can reflect upon convergence between urban planning and transport planning. So this is what are the opportunities that we would be looking forward in future, including light rail projects, trolley bus projects. In fact, we have received some questions / DPRs on the same. However, I must say that most of these DPRs are still at the cabinet level, so we can't actually move forward. We can look forward on financing of procurement of e-buses, as well as on projects related to air quality. Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you.